Alright, YouTube, protests are ongoing in Charlotte. What happened is that a man by the name of Keith Lamont Scott was shot by the police. The family and people on social media claimed he was unarmed, he was gunned down in a way similar to, I think it was Terrence Crutcher in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now, I'm going to make a differentiation because I had to do this before. When people were talking about like Garner and Michael Brown and all these people, or Tamir Rice prior, I pointed out there's a big difference between the officers have perhaps used excessive force but shot somebody who was armed, maybe non-compliant, and a situation in which a person who is fully compliant or breaking no law, and usually, in many cases, unarmed, is killed. For instance, Tamir Rice was not armed when he was shot, just a young man. A boy, really. I think he was 13, so not even a man yet. He has a fake gun, a toy pistol. He gets gunned down. It was obviously officer misconduct. In the case of Terrence Crutcher from Tulsa, what appears to have happened is he was fully compliant, he had his hands in the air, he wasn't armed at the time, and he was gunned down. That's unacceptable. It's police misconduct. It's murder, is what it is. Let's call it what it is. In the case, though, of Keith Scott, the police are saying, yeah, indeed, people thought he was reaching for a book or something like that. It was actually a firearm. He was armed. He wasn't compliant. That's why we shot him. Now, I like to think that there are ways that those situations, more or less all of the time, can be dealt with. Why not taser a person instead of immediately gunning them down? This is done in Europe for the most part. It does work. I would think you'd want to take someone who's potentially a criminal alive. What if they have links to other criminals? You can question them or whatever. That's unfortunately not what our metropolitan police forces do. But it's wrong to immediately start looting and burning. Apparently 14 officers were injured in the resulting riots in Charlotte. And that's regrettable, because it appears to have been spurred on by what was possibly fictitious information that this man who was shot was not actually armed, that he was reaching for a book. It's almost like this weird BLM-style symbolism of, oh, well, he was trying to learn, all he had was a book, and they shot him, which appears not to have been the case. Now, I'm smart enough not to immediately take the police's word for it. Maybe they planted a weapon on him or something, or maybe it's just a complete and utter fabrication to try to get the riots to calm down. But I'm also not going to take the word of his family and random people on social media for granted as true and say, oh, well, he was unarmed and gunned down, so people should be protesting right now. Certainly not rioting. I find it funny. You have something like the Terrence Crutcher shooting in Tulsa. No riots. Yeah, protests, but, no significant scuffles going on over someone who was actually gunned down while unarmed, while clearly got it on video and everything. He's clearly compliant. He did nothing wrong, and he gets pigeonholed, and no problems there. BLM basically ignores it. But somebody who was possibly armed at the time was apparently non-compliant with the officers gets shot. Regrettable, yes. Dead, yes. Obviously not a great day for everyone involved. And all of a sudden then, when the person was committing a criminal act, wasn't cooperative, was, reaching for a gun or whatever, then all of a sudden, in that case, everybody starts to riot. It's just like there were no Tamir Rice riots, which was very funny. Some kid gets gunned down who's not armed, did nothing wrong. I will point out from a libertarian perspective, it's a person's right to carry a firearm anyway. So why would that be a reason to just gun somebody down just because they happen to have what the officers think is a weapon and they get a call? I don't think that's acceptable at all. Clear abuse of authority, clear-cut case of murder. And it is in the Terrence Crutcher case as well. It was murder. It was an unlawful killing. The police don't simply get a pass on anybody that they kill just because they happen to have a badge on. Not the way that it fucking works. Or at least not the way it's constitutionally supposed to work. But you have somebody who apparently was non-compliant, possibly armed, jury's still out, I suppose, who gets killed. And all of a sudden everyone riots, they're beating on the police, they're burning cars and looting. What does the looting solve? I fail to see how that gets public discourse on your side as far as police accountability goes, or Black Lives Matter, or anything else that you want to shout out about. I fail to see how that's relevant, how it helps your cause. Burning things, how does it help? Yeah, it's entertaining for people who are watching live streams. But really, the reason that they're watching is to watch to see how violent you become. You're a form of entertainment. When I was watching, for instance, the riots in Ferguson, I wasn't watching it because I was saying, oh, well, I want to watch these law-abiding protesters get potentially hit with like pepper spray or something like that. I was watching for the looting. I was watching because, yeah, I wanted to see someone get beaten down or something like that. Why wouldn't I? It's entertainment at that point. If someone's dumb enough to break away from a bunch of protesters, go running through the street, smashing cars and burning them, yeah, they deserve to get beaten down. It's entertainment. It's funny. I hope you get hurt. That's my dearest wish, that you get hurt. You're also detracting from the actual protest, so, again, just a fucking scumbag. It doesn't matter if you get pigeonholed at that point. It doesn't matter if you accidentally get hit by one of the other protesters with a brick. Or if you burn yourself, you burn your little finger in the fire that you just set in a police car or something. But why is it that every time there's a fairly clear-cut case of police misconduct, whether it's they brutalized somebody who obviously didn't deserve it, they ignored somebody's actual constitutional rights, they gunned somebody down who was not armed, who was compliant, like with Terrence Crutcher, like Tamir Rice or something like that, why is it that in those cases there's a protest? Yeah, maybe. The family comes out and says, oh, well, we want our boy back, we want our daughter back or whatever. And that's all that happens. But when somebody has potentially done something wrong, is a criminal, and gets gunned down, all of a sudden riots explode all over whatever city's affected, as well as usually spreading and metastasizing elsewhere. And it goes on for weeks and weeks. There's like rioting, there's looting, there's burning and stealing and rape in the streets. I just don't understand it. These morons at BLM and all of their other associated anarcho whatever the fuck fans, they choose the wrong possible battles that they could choose in this situation. And then they scream about Black Lives Mattering, trying to shut up any white person who says, well, all lives matter. They will ignore any instance of police brutality, officer-involved shooting, removal of constitutional rights, drug running, whatever else some metro force is doing. If it involves white people, unless it's the officer who's white, who gives a damn? They don't give a fuck. Oh, let the whiteys die, I suppose. Hispanic, don't care about the Hispanics. They don't say anything about, oh, well, all these people getting profiled down in the Southwest, we feel sorry for them, Hispanic lives matter. No, it's Black Lives Matter, you fucking racist. They don't even see how this limits their own movement's potential. It's just a clusterfuck of stupid. To see a bunch of people rioting in this situation, more or less ignoring the Crutcher shooting, more or less ignoring, I can't remember whether it was, I think it was Garner who was selling the Rolly cigarettes and then got choked out and he like asphyxiated and died. I think it was Michael Brown was the one that was charging the officer, but I might have those two mixed up. I could be wrong. And in the case of, big happy-looking Rolly-selling dude, he gets killed, not armed, being compliant, just saying, hey, I can't breathe, gets killed, no big problem. The other dude dies, after attacking people, after, apparently shoplifting as well, shoving people out of the way, attacks an officer, gets shot while doing so. And all of a sudden, riots everywhere. It's like the Trayvon Martin trial. Now, people didn't even allow it to go to trial before they had acted as judge, jury, and executioner in the court of public opinion, based solely upon analysis by our retard media, largely HLN, largely like the Nancy Grace crowd. They were the ones egging them on. I still find it funny because none of these BLM folks thought it was the least bit strange that the same Nancy Grace that dismissed the fact that Trayvon Martin had THC in his system at the time, oh, that doesn't cause violence, about a week after the trial was over, was talking about drugs and saying, oh, well, it's a risky thing to do. It can cause violence and crime if you're smoking marijuana. They don't even see the hypocrisy in their own movement or by people that they idolize, they lionize in some retard way. That's what it is. It is retardation. It's stupid. And it's not going to work. It's not going to be a tenable long-term solution to police accountability. to brutality, racial profiling, the police running narcotics, prostitution, whatever the hell it happens to be. It's not going to solve any of that stuff. All it means is that the people in the affected community that are already grieving the fact that potentially somebody was wrongfully killed have to deal with a half dozen of their shop fronts are burned to the ground, a bunch of people who had nothing to do with any of it, their cars are smashed up, there's fragments of brick lying in everyone's yard, the air is thick with the smell of pepper spray, and ultimately nothing gets accomplished. It's stupid. So yeah, there's a little bit about what's happening in Charlotte, much like what happened in Ferguson. It's retardation. People are ignoring the actual officer involved killing that they should be. If they're going to riot for anything, they should be rioting for that, but I don't see that happening. No, instead they'd rather wait until somebody potentially was armed and uncooperative and rant about that. Okay, well, if you think that that's the smart decision, then I wish you well in your endeavors, because you're completely and utterly wrong. That's about all. Peace out.